the SEC decides to release its schedule. So a lot to get to, including today's tough question. But let's begin with a quick look at, if you don't mind, I'm going to begin with today's tough question because I want to get your thoughts on the Vols schedule before we get to the SEC and break this thing down, because some teams got the bad end of the stick, the others got the good end, and I happen to think that Tennessee is one of them. It's today's tough question, brought to you by Andy Mason of AndyMasonRealEstate.com.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The Vols schedule, loathe it, love it, like it. Where are you, Caleb Calhoun, before we break it down?
Oh my gosh. Tennessee schedule specifically? Love it. If you are a Tennessee fan, you should love it. I mean, look, I'm just going to say it. Tennessee it's ridiculous that the SEC doesn't have two divisions and they're doing an 8-game schedule next year, because I'm just going to say this straight up. Tennessee should have to finish 2 games ahead of some other SEC schools if it's determining who's going to go play for the SEC title, because their record, I'm sorry, if Tennessee finishes 8-0 in the SEC and another team finishes 6-2, I might have that 6-2 team go play for the SEC title if it was me, because it's that easy.
Chattanooga at Tennessee, and that'll be August 31st to open. We knew that date, but September the 1st will unofficially be Nico Day in Tennessee, because everybody's going to celebrate the fact that he throws for over 400 yards, completes about 75% of his passes, and accounts for 5 touchdowns. You heard it here first. And then you go Tennessee versus NC State. That's in Charlotte. Then you go Kent State at Tennessee. Tennessee should be able to handle that one as well. Then Tennessee does go to Oklahoma, which will be a challenge. Then you have an off week. Tennessee at Arkansas, which is in the midst of an offensive rebuilding effort. Then you got Florida at Tennessee. That'll be October the 12th. Alabama at Tennessee. I know that that's still the third Saturday in October, and I'm very glad that they kept that tradition up, especially that Tennessee and Alabama are still playing it. And I hope no matter what happens in the future of college football, that's a permanent opponent. Kentucky at Tennessee, Mississippi State at Tennessee, Tennessee at Georgia. That's obviously the challenge, but it's in November. And that theoretically, if you base a play off Tennessee and Alabama in the past 8 quarters, Tennessee has won 6 of those. So Tennessee at Georgia could be a number 1 versus 2 game in November. That's not a stretch, Caleb.
No, it's not. It's not. It's there's a very strong possibility of that. I mean, it was basically that 2 years ago. It was 1 versus 3, right? Tennessee and Georgia in Sanford Stadium. I think that the one thing I hate is that the years never lined up, because as I told you before the playoff expanded to 12 teams, I always wanted at least one for once meaningful November game at home for Tennessee. I always wanted to see that. And we never got that. We never got to see that. That never happened in human history, Dave. A meaningful November home game that could knock you out of a 4-team college football playoff.
It's pretty legendary. It's pretty much guaranteed to be meaningful, right? Because both teams at the very least are going to be knocking on the door of a 12-team.
Yeah, but it's on the road. It's a road game. That's what I mean.
I got you.
Yeah. Tennessee has never and never will, because of the expanded playoff, ever get a top 5 matchup in November at home with the magnitude of what it would have been awesome to see at Neyland Stadium. However,
this past year,
a rant. Yeah, this was the last chance for that to happen. This past year was the last chance for that to happen, because the playoff is going to 12 teams now.
This is still pretty darn good.
But however, if you're a Tennessee fan, you should absolutely love this schedule. This schedule is laughably easy. I mean,
you have to let me finish. I got a UTEP and a Vanderbilt to get to. UTEP at Tennessee, and then Tennessee at Vanderbilt. Schedule brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Over 40 years of experience right there in Knoxville, and he can take care of you. Best service, best biz, best service, and best prices when it comes to real estate right there in the Knoxville area. Andy Mason, realestate.com. Yeah, I don't know if I looked at it, and honestly, I thought that when I first saw it last night, I thought I'd seen a fan's hope of what the schedule might be. I don't see how it could possibly line up any better. Let's nitpick for a second. You pick one thing out of this schedule that Tennessee legitimately could gripe about, and Tennessee fans.
Wait, I gotta find something Tennessee could gripe about.
I got nothing. I literally have nothing.
I'm at a complete loss. It is very unfair that they don't have a bye before or after Georgia. I think that's very unfair. They have to rebound and get ready to play UTEP after. How could you do that to the SEC? Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. I know your expectations are sky high, even a little bit higher than mine in 2024. But does this change your expectations at all? And let's after I get your thoughts, project a record on this deal.
My expectations have not changed. My projected record on this deal, I say 9 wins are circled, right, Dave?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So who are your 3 in question? It would obviously be Alabama and Georgia, Florida.
Okay, so, yeah, no, not Florida. Florida's a circled win. I don't care what's happened in the past. If they lose to Florida next year, there's a real problem. No, the only non-circled wins are at Oklahoma, which I think is a toss-up, and I still think Tennessee's going to win that game. Honestly, I think after the Oklahoma game is when the nation starts talking about Nico Iamaleava for the Heisman. I've been making that prediction from the start, and I'm sticking with it. It'll be the Oklahoma game. All eyes will be on him, and he's going to dominate that day. The Alabama, obviously a toss-up game. I think Georgia right now, you lean likely loss, right, because it's at Georgia. But you don't know. I mean, Georgia's been dealing with so much attrition the last few years because of so many players, so many players leaving early for the NFL. But yeah, I think 9 wins, and then I think one to be worried about, and I just wanted to mention is NC State and Charlotte, just because they got Grayson McCall transferring to them, the quarterback from Coastal Carolina. But I don't, even with that, I think they should beat NC State and Charlotte. I don't care that they have an elite quarterback.
Yeah, and that's one of those neutral site games. We'll see if they're a part of moving forward, but I do think it helps Tennessee recruit in that area. McCall's very good, but other than Caleb Williams that went with his coach, who have we seen that's made the transfer at the quarterback position that's really blown us away? I mean,
Michael Penix, Bo Nix.
Okay, a few then. Joe Burrow, maybe a few then. Okay, but I don't think McCall's of that ilk. Do you? Now, if going into it, I would have said he is of Nix's ilk, but those other names you mentioned, I don't think he's of that ilk.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Again, but it's definitely worth him giving a shot. Sam Hartman in Notre Dame too, who left NC State went to Notre Dame. I thought he was pretty good. So I think this will be it'll be a fun test for Tennessee. I will say it's going to be a much better test than Virginia was this year, or honestly, even than Pittsburgh was last year. And I know they beat Pittsburgh in overtime, but you go back and look at the 2022 season, Tennessee was significantly better than Pittsburgh. I just don't think they had mentally arrived during that Pittsburgh game. Is that fair to say, Dave, that they just had mentally gotten there?
Yeah, I think that's very, very well said.
I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to give you a conspiracy right now. The SEC is looking out for Texas. It's embarrassing how obvious they are looking out for Texas. Texas, let me give you their SEC opponents, Dave, just real quick. Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Texas A&M. And then Oklahoma and Georgia are the 2 teams elite teams they play. They play Oklahoma and Dallas, neutral site. They get Georgia at home. The weekend they get Georgia at home is the same weekend of the big Formula One event, the Grand Prix event in Austin every year. So Georgia fans won't even be able to travel to the game because with a road audience, because all the home game, all the hotels will be booked. So that is it's the easiest schedule and the most cover I've ever seen provided. Meanwhile, on the other side, y'all got to stop with the conspiracy theories of Alabama. Look at who the SEC gave Alabama. Alabama draws Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, and Oklahoma next year. So y'all got to leave Alabama alone at this point. Texas is your new enemy.
Did you just say Grand Prix? It's Grand Prix.
Grand Prix. Whatever.